Hello, Otters here, and this is how to do an explain question. And so you need to know the basics. An explain question is worth 8 marks, and an explain question should take 12 minutes in an exam. To get top marks in this type of question, then you need to show that you can prioritise and /or link things together. Here is the mark scheme so that you can have a look for yourself what I'm talking about. The first thing that I'm going to draw your attention to is this little word here, which says you need to have 2 or more causes linked to the outcome. 2. That would probably suggest, for those of you out there that are on the ball, that you probably need 2 paragraphs. Always top tip is to do 2 paragraphs in this exam, but if it gets to the end and you've done your explain question, you've done all the questions in the exam and you've got time, then come back and add a 3rd, because you never know, it might just help you hit the top of the mark scheme. Now look at the holy grail, 8 marks, and what you've got to do is prioritise. What's that all about, I hear you say? Well, I'll tell you. If you are prioritising, then you will be using perhaps something like this lovely word, important, and you could perhaps begin your paragraphs with something like, the most important reason why, if you use our example question, why organised crime grew in the 1920s in the USA was, and you go on to make your statement. But you don't have to do it that way, you could perhaps add it to the end of your paragraph. So here's the option. You could perhaps use this other lovely word, which is crucial. Kind of means the same thing, but both of them would show that you are prioritising, and therefore you might deserve to get 8 marks out of 8, which is what we want you to get. Now back to this badger again, it says or. So you've got another option. You could demonstrate how they combine to create the outcome. This is the key word here, combine, which would require you to do a bit of linking between things. Here's a different explain question mark scheme, and here for 8 marks it says show links. So linking's a good idea here. And would you believe it? It says links in this one. It doesn't mention prioritise, it asks you to link. So sometimes it's appropriate to prioritise and at other times it's appropriate to link your paragraphs. How could you demonstrate this to the examiner? Well, how about you use the word linked? Perhaps you could do something like this. This can be linked to when you're writing your answer. Perhaps you could put that in your answer. Now I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, where was our example answer? Well, here it is. I've written one for you so that I can show you some good things to include in an example explain question. First of all, look at this. I've started my answer with part of the question, which gives the examiner no illusions to the fact that I am focusing totally on the question. Can you spot any facts, quotes, figures, laws, or things that show that I know what I'm talking about? Can you? Can you? Well, I can, because here it says the mayor of Chicago was being bribed by Al Capone during the 1920s. It also mentions the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Shows that I know my stuff, shows that I've done my revision. You'll never guess what I've spotted. It's this word, linked. Now, I want 8 marks, so I've put the word linked in and I've linked some points together. The level of control can also be linked to prohibition, because without the money from prohibition, they might not have been able to use bribery as effectively. Effectively. What's my next paragraph all about? Guess. It's about prohibition, of course it is. Well, I've done some linking, you know I've done some linking, but to get 8 marks I might have to do some prioritising, and I begin the paragraph by prioritising by saying the main reason why organised crime grew in the USA in the 1920s was. The main reason. That suggests that I am prioritising, and so long as I go on to explain, then everything's fine. In this little section here, I briefly say what prohibition is, just so that the examiner knows that I'm aware of what prohibition is. There's only one sentence there, though. You don't need to go in much more detail. What you want to do is analyse. What effect did prohibition have? Well, I'm analysing by beginning, this meant that. I'm saying I know what I'm talking about, and I'm saying this meant that. What were the consequences of prohibition? And I go on to say, also meant that. So I'm in this section down here, analysing. You can read it for yourself. Analysing, if you pause the video, how prohibition caused the growth of organised crime. I'm linking it back to the question. And I've also stuck in a little cheeky statistic in there so I know what I'm talking about. So we've got prioritising, we've got a bit of description, and then we've got lots of explanation, an analysis in the last bit of the paragraph there. It also says down the bottom, optional third paragraph, possibly on the new technology such as guns and cars. I've not gone and written a third paragraph, but at the end of the exam, if I had time, I might come back and add a third paragraph just to make sure. And that is how to do an explain question. Good luck!